ashamed that she can't say these things back home. Our next writer is Merle Collins. She's from Grenada, and she is a professor of Caribbean literature and creative writing at the University of Maryland. She has published extensively, and among her works are Angel, Rotten Pomerac, and The Color of Forgetting. Her work is very unique in her use of language, dialect, and the music of her homeland, and in the way she represents her native culture. I ask Merle now to give us the pleasure of hearing her.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to Women's Learning Partnership for inviting me here today, and to apologize to all of you for walking in like royalty after you were all seated. That certainly was not the intention. Let me begin with the poem entitled Somebody's Mother, which is really a tribute to people who do mothering, biological mothers or otherwise. Somebody's mother, when my thoughts are a tangle I cannot untie, when meanings are lost and I cannot say why, when the day-to-day drudging is exhausting, not fulfilling, when a hollow inside says I'm existing, not living, those days, mother, when life is a circle that keeps me spinning, not moving, who else in the world could I tell of the pain? Who else in the world would understand that hurt? Who else in the world would I simply know is sharing? Who else in the world would so love me in weakness? Who else, mother? Who else? Some days, mother, when the coming of morning is an intrusion, I fear, when the falling of night fuels thoughts of despair, when prayer for some deeper believing is a passion I cannot express, when the tolling of time seems so slow and so pointless, who else in the world could I tell of that hurt? Who else in the world wouldn't think me insane? Who else could love me just for the sake of loving? Who else, mother? Who else? Some days, mother, when I can find no meaning even in your existence, when we quarrel and argue and I really wish I never knew you, when I listen and look at you and hope I'm not seeing my future, when some of the searching has fueled rejection, who else in the world would just love me again without question? Who else holds this feeling that nothing I do can erase? Who else is simply always there for my story? Who else, mother? Who else? Some days, mother, when I go searching for this kind of loving you're giving, when I go giving this kind of loving you're teaching, it's like trying to hold the rainbow that drinks in the river. It's like trying to hug the moonlight that sits on the doorstep. It's like spinning around in circles and challenging the sky to come falling. So, mother, tell me, who else knows the secret of this deeper loving? Who else shares the miracle of that tender kind of care? Who else is there that knows of this unstinting supporting? Who else, mother? Who else? Now, the second poem is called The Lesson, and the lesson really is a poem I wrote at a point in Grenada when we were talking a lot about moving forward and the idea of woman step forward. And I was thinking of the stories that my grandmother and great-grandmother used to tell. Their chants stayed in my head, and I thought of how difficult it was to move from that to the idea of woman stepping forward. The lesson. You think was an easy lesson? Was a deep lesson. A well-taught lesson, a carefully learned lesson. I could remember remember great-grandmammy brain, tired and wandering, mind empty and filled, bright, retaining, and skillfully twisted by a sin unequaled by their Eves. Great-grandmammy, living proof of the power of the word, spoke knowingly of William the Conqueror, who was the fourth son of the Duke of Normandy. My granny knew that William married Matilda, that his children were Robert, Richard, Henry, William, and Adela. Granny, mind going back, teaching what she knew, pick on the boss friend, on the boss hero, William the Conqueror. Granny didn't remember no Carib chief, no Ashanti king or queen. Her heroes were in Europe, not in the Caribbean, not in Africa, none in Grenada. Her geography was of the Arctic Ocean and the Mediterranean. She spoke of Nova Zembla, Franz Joseph Land, and Spitzbergen in the Arctic Ocean, spoke knowingly of Corsica, Sardinia, Sicily, Malta, the Loman Islands, and the islands of the archipelago in the Mediterranean. Is not no Nancy's story now? Is a serious joke. I used to laugh at Granny, repeat after her, till one day I checked the map and find the spelling little different to how I did think, but the geography straight like an arrow, tip focused on the Arctic Ocean. Then my blood run cold, my eyes stay fixed on the Arctic Circle, watching Nova Zembla, Franz Joseph Land, watching lower down my granny's personal Faroe Islands in Denmark Strait, unaccountably feeling the cold grip of the Arctic, noting how by a cruel trick my granny's mind knew more of that than of a Caribbean which did not exist. Wandering planets spun out of orbit, when for an eternal moment the world went a little too fast. Teach the slaves and their children and their children's children to know and live for our world, no new creation, just a part of the great everlasting old Arctic and Mediterranean. And now we, understanding all of that and a little more, we will cherish Granny's memory, but beckon William the Conqueror across to meet and revere our martyrs and the countries and principles they fought for. In this beginning, we will rewrite the history books. We will put William the Conqueror on the back page. We will make Morgan the pirate a footnote. Grannies to come will know of the Arctic Ocean, but will know more of the Caribbean Sea, of the Atlantic crossing. We will recall with pride our own, so goodbye, William. Good riddance. Welcome to John Kaisa Cesar, esta es nuestra casa, in whatever language we have or have been given. This is our home. Some of these poems were written at a point, at least some of the ones I'm going to read now, were written at a point when I was living in England. And I mentioned that because this poem, She Was Quiet, is really about a Nigerian woman working in the kitchens of London, very silent all the time until, you know, it just makes me think of facelessness. People we pass every day, go by every day who are faceless, who are going through their own little private struggles. She was quiet. She was quiet until you looked into her eyes and then you thought, well, perhaps not so much quiet as unrevealing. She was meek, moved about the kitchen of her workplace as if she would step aside to give an ant the right of way. She was meek until you looked into her eyes and then you thought, well, perhaps not so much meek as undemonstrative. She was Mary the cook who walked without moving, who talked without a voice, who looked without seeing, who listened without hearing, just another faceless person, unseeing and unseen on the streets of London. Not much was ever said of Mary, and Mary never had much to say for herself at all until one day you visit the cook in hospital and she startles you to silence by meeting your routine, "How are you?" Not with, "Well," not with, "Fine," not even with, "Well, not so well today," but by speaking of her mother, of her son in the village, of Nigeria, and of the world as if she knew so much, not only of its pain, but also of its possibilities made impossible. And when Mary's eyes say with searching, "How I am," is all a part of that. You are silent now, you feel faceless too. Thank God, Mary says. Thank God that she had made some time to visit them in the village last year, her anxious mother and her waiting son. And you had this image of Mary wresting time from those who had control of it, breaking it like the bottle, and remaking just a little piece to suit herself, thank God. And now they say that if they can find no one, perhaps they will bury Mary in an unmarked grave, or perhaps they may even cremate Mary and scatter her ashes on a wintry English day. Mary, who had come to England in search of dreams, who had hoped to go home tomorrow, until the cancer that had been in her life since yesterday ate its weary, watchful way into her breast today and left tomorrow searching for another day. I wonder who will make some time, who will find the money that Mary never made enough of here in her English home, to seek and tell her anxious mother and her waiting son. Okay, after setting you up for a few poems on that, I've changed the theme drastically and read a poem called How Times Have Changed. It speaks for itself. I remember how in days long ago I would squeeze my eyes tight shut and pray tremblingly, "Lord, make this relationship work out." Even though he's awful sometimes, you know that truly he's beautiful inside, Lord. Bring out the best in him. Make him be really beautiful, Lord. Make this relationship work out. And sometimes I even added threateningly, "Or I shall die." Waiting for results. Perhaps I hoped that man to man they'd work it out. And perhaps they did. How times have changed. Now, meeting you, whom I quite fancy, I say simply to the watching me, seems to me it would be quite nice if something works. If he's beautiful inside, let him pause. If he's as awful as I suspect, I'll survive without the hassle. Being alone can be quite beautiful sometimes. Loneliness when in company is a pain I've learned to fear. How times have changed. From that to this. From then to now. It's funny and beautifully peaceful the way times have changed. I'll do a couple more poems. Yeah. Images. There's a poem which talks about the experiences of women as I saw them growing up. Images. Remembering images that marked out margins before I knew of words, of meaning, Faces ever-present, faces mostly absent, images that came to splinter pain. Forbidden shouts, forbidden search, images created in other people's mindlessness. Images wrapped in skin-tight words like woman, weak as straw, coward as fly, devious as Delilah, hammer blows upon the distant, ever-present self like that boy Fufua. He really stupid, just like a girl. And you know, I laughed. And laughed again at that person in front of me driving like a real baby. As sure is a blasted woman. But, whoa, you don't see that girl, how she handled that car so beautiful. She could have, just like a man. The message, subdue your excellence if you want to keep your identity as woman. Walk within the patterns I shape, after my image, within my likeness. Images battering the receptive, ever-forming mind, watching women, watching children, women watching houses, watching his house, registered in his name, of course. Your labor for love and gratitude for his presence, his labor for wealth, and you, a peaceful person, would be quietly violated, would not make the demands that bring revolutions. You, a peaceful person, would keep your weakness and cherish your chains. Images, watching women labor without value, working all day, working no place, working women, quietly asking at end of week for another $20, please, to buy shoes for our gym. Working women biting lips as he sucks his teeth, biting back words forming blood at the corners of her cheeks. Images, our anger, our shouts, why don't you fight back? Hush, child. Sometimes you have to play dead to see what funeral you will get. So used to the game that even after the parson got home, you're still there thinking you're only playing dead. Looking wise, talking wise, acting stupid, mind touching tender distances, going through the movements according to the script, not realizing perhaps that whatever the struggle, until you make it different, the boss will always win, will always register in his name the sweat, the blood, the tears of workers, till workers claim our worth, reshaping meaning, values, caring, working towards the vision of a shared beauty, reality that we will create if only if we insist on equal worth. And finally, when night falls, the women who create and recreate stories test the temper of the body. They groan with the pain of moving, sigh and declare, well, that is that. The body well tired, but thank the Lord for another 24 hours. What gone? Well gone. Tomorrow is another day. When night falls, they bunch their skirts and sink, sighing to the steps. They fan their faces and say, the work was good today. That last load of cane, that last bucket of stone, that last whatever, pull us through, you know. We make it. They think of the child's teeth, they think of the school uniform, they think of the food for the week, they consider the budget. The day just ended and declare, well, that is that. They test the temper of the body and decide, time to put sleep to bed. Tomorrow is another day. When night falls, they stretch the body and laugh at its hurting. These women who smile, they take time for a little remembering. Child, they say things good today, you know. Let me tell you about a long time things. You think it was easy? Let me tell you the story. And then laughter massages. The body relaxes. Tongue, teeth, and throat enjoy recreating. Let me just take a little rest, they say. These women who weave the stories. Let me rest you here, child, before going to sleep. Let me rest. Tomorrow is another day. The owl hoots. They cross themselves, move eyes to the door. It closes. Make sure it closes. You know, you hear the owl. Someone going. I wonder who that. Close the door. Close the door, child. It ain't getting no soul here tonight. And then they laugh at their fearing. They stretch, yawn. Well, that is that. It's only the day that died. But we see another one through, you know. Thank the Lord. Let's sleep, go to bed. We'll see what tomorrow will bring. We'll see what tomorrow